All right, and now it's time for our big interview. We're going to welcome Doug Smith to the show. Doug, welcome to the show. Pleasure having you on.
Big interview. Come on.
Big interview. For us, this is a huge interview. We're a little starstruck right now.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, guys. I really do.
Oh, that Boston accent. You warned us about it. You warned us.
Yeah, it's tough to grow up in New England and then travel, especially in Canada when I played hockey up there. I mean, people called me Yankee Doodle and all kinds of names. And I understand we butcher the language, and it's really tough to understand our accent sometimes. We certainly don't pronounce the letter R properly. But what can you do?
No, it's exactly. So we'll get right into it. So talk to us about the Mustache Classic and what that means to you and, what it's really all about.
The Mustache Classic, that was put together by a guy named Matt Caputo. I met him a couple of years back. I think I actually might have met him on Facebook. This guy really worked hard. It's part of the NHL Hockey Fights Cancer campaign. He put 6 teams together. We kind of played for one day. Each team played each other like in a round robin type of thing. But it was really all about fundraising and getting money to donate to the cause. And if I remember correctly, our Mustache Classic, group, so to speak, we generated more donations than any NHL team. We were the number one team to donate. I think it was maybe over $20,000. It was pretty significant. But the cause was awesome. Met a lot of really good guys. We had a fun day. I was really happy to be involved with it for sure.
Awesome. I saw you score a couple of goals too. Like that. It was great.
Yeah, I don't score too many goals, especially even at my age. But yeah, I got a couple of lucky breaks.
So wait, tell us before we get to the next questions. Tolik Bortz had some sick celebrations. How were his goals? Were his goals nice?
I'll tell you, we had a couple of guys on my team that could really fly. I mean, they could skate well, and the guys that I played with on my line, I'll tell you, we really did well. We moved the puck, and we got some great shots. And, I think everyone that scored really celebrated like it was the 7th game of the Cup.
Tolik Bortz got that Russian gas. So, Brendan, you can get the question.
It's just refreshing to hear a hockey player not say we got to get pucks deep from an answer about a game. But
yeah.
So, tell us about when you started playing hockey and what your inspiration was to get involved in the sport and get going with it.
I really started late. And for people that don't know my story, I may have skated on a pond or at a hockey rink maybe like 3 or 4 times as a kid growing up, but I never played hockey, the sport itself. And, all my friends did play. And when I was about 19, I think I was almost 20, and I finally got out on the ice with my buddies just to have some fun. And one of my really best friends, Adam Fratazio, he played hockey in high school and college. And I had an amateur boxing background as a kid growing up. I fought in a lot of local tournaments, the New England Golden Gloves and stuff like that. And Adam always kind of had this crazy dream, like, if Doug could learn how to play hockey and keep his balance, and with his fighting background, maybe he could make it as like a minor league tough guy somewhere. And, we're talking about the 1980s, like that's when I played, early 90s, and fighting was huge back then, not like today. And, a guy like me who could barely get around on skates, but was willing to drop the gloves, protect his teammates, I could get a job somewhere. So, it kind of came through more of Adam's dream to he pushed me that way, and I really absorbed it, and I ran with it. And we worked hard for probably less than 3 years, because I didn't play my first organized hockey game until I was just about 22 years old. And then I was in a pro camp when I was 23. So
we're 22 right now, and that's crazy. I thought I started ice hockey late. I started ice hockey in 8th grade. I was 18. That's wild. Do you have one of your favorite memories of playing hockey? Like your best memory when it comes to mind?
I have to be honest. I had so many incredible moments for being places where I should never have been. They are all special, and I know that's kind of cliche to say, but if I have to draw one out of my hat, to play in the American Hockey League, which is the second best hockey league in the world, whereas just a few years earlier I was skating on a pond. That has to be one of my most incredible memories I'll ever have,
What's your most memorable fight? Because, we have to ask about this.
I'll show you this right here.
Oh.
This is my book. This is Goon. And that picture right there,
black eye and everything.
Beautiful, beautiful black eye, is from my one game that I got in the American Hockey League. And I played against a guy named Frank the Animal Bialois. Now, today we're friends. He's a great guy. But he gave me an opportunity to drop the gloves and make a name for myself. Now, obviously, you can tell by the picture, I didn't win the fight. But for me, it didn't matter because it was a glorious moment because I got to be in a league, like I said, that I didn't belong in. And I got to fight a guy who was at the time considered to be the heavyweight champion of the American Hockey League. In fact, he had played a number of games up in NHL for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I fought a legitimate guy. I didn't just pick some young kid who was inexperienced. I mean, I took the king. And like I said, even though I lost, and it is what it is, you're not going to win every fight, but just to be there for that moment, it like I said, that's an incredible memory for me.
Did you have a lot of respect for him going into that game? Like you knew, okay, if I'm going to fight someone, it's probably going to be him, or was it more of, all right, I have to beat the crap out of this guy if I fight him?
They had three particular tough guys on that team that I played against. One guy's name was Ryan Vandenbush, who had a very long NHL career. And I knew that if I could just get to go against one of those guys, my call up, so to speak, would have been worthy. And it was Bialois who gave me the shot.
So, we have the book and the movie. How did this all come about?
Adam Fantazio, who I mentioned earlier, is a kid that I grew up with in my neighborhood. Adam was like my backbone. Like I said earlier, he got me on the ice. He got me rolling. And I would talk to Adam all the time when I was away playing somewhere. I'd call him every night after a game, and I would tell him who I fought, what happened. And after a year or two, Adam said, we really should write a book about all your stories, because minor league hockey and the hockey enforcer lifestyle, people, the fans, the teams that have guys like that on the bench, they really appreciate what you guys do. And so Adam was the one that really put the book together. And he was able to get it published through a publishing company. And it really took off. It really had a huge following that it was just, we never expected the turnout that we got.
Did the book lead to the movie? Is that where the movie?
Yes, it did. Yeah. In fact, from what I understand, I was told that a guy that works for a writing team in Hollywood, he was in an airport and he happened to see the cover of the book. And he said, as soon as I saw the cover and the title Goon, he says, I knew exactly what it was about. He says he took the book, bought it, hopped on his flight. He said by the time he landed, he had finished the whole book. And when he got off the plane, he said, I contacted my writing team. And I said, we need to write some kind of a script about hockey enforcers because they've been such a huge part of the game. So, which obviously, rolled into the Goon movie. So they used my book as a background.
All right, well, a little later in this interview, we're going to ask you some fact or fiction about the movie. But next question, though, was your nickname really The Thug?
So Doug the Thug came when I was playing in the East Coast Hockey League my very first year. I played with the Winston-Salem Thunderbirds, and we were on the road in Knoxville, Tennessee, playing in the Knoxville Cherokees. And there was a wild bench clearing brawl. And the very next day, in the newspaper on the front page was a picture of me fighting some guy. And the writer who wrote the article under the picture wrote, Doug, as in Thug Smith, instigates this wild brawl last night at the Civic Center. And the nickname kind of stuck. And, like I said, I would never give myself a nickname, but nevertheless, I kind of ran with it.
That's a great story. And so one question a lot of our followers had was your view on fighting in the NHL today. So obviously we're going to assume you're pro fighting, but just let us know what you think about not having fighting in the sport and what that does to guys like you that get the opportunity, like a John Scott guy. Is it play a big thing in hockey if they got rid of fighting?
Well, I think obviously the instigator penalty was intentionally made by the NHL to curb fighting and slow it down. But, you know, fighters today, they weren't like me. They weren't like one-dimensional. Like, I really couldn't play the game that, you know, I sucked, and I was there just to fight. So today, you know, a guy has to be able to play the game too. You know, I believe that the hockey players should police themselves just like they've always been able to do. The referees and the linesmen, they might miss calls from behind the play. They miss instigating, you know, things that happen between guys. And sometimes dropping the gloves is the only solution. And, you know, I have a hard time watching today's NHL, to be quite honest with you.
Wow. Just because of that reason?
I hate to sound one-dimensional, but, you know, I really believe that fighting is a part of the game, and it's the only sport that allows it, so to speak. And listen, there's a lot of top-notch players, you know, Sidney Crosby and Ovechkin. I mean, these guys will tell you they like having a tough guy on their team, and they like having the feeling of protection on their wing when they're out playing their shift. And, you know, Sidney Crosby has had more concussions than any fighter in the NHL, and he doesn't fight. So, you know, it is what it is, you know, and you can't tell me the fans don't love it, because when the gloves come off, every fan pretty much stands up, you know, so it's tough.
Yeah. I mean, when we go to games and fights happen, the adrenaline, we're not the ones fighting, but we get amped up where everybody goes nuts. It's a very exciting part of hockey. Brendan, did you have something you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the game. It polices itself, right? So I think that's a big aspect as to why fighting is as important as it is for all the fans and the players. But have you stayed in touch with the game since then? I know you mentioned that, you know, you're not really a big fan of today's NHL, but have you stayed in touch with it in some part?
I do. I'm involved. I do a lot of charity work. I'm fortunate to still have a lot of friends in the game, whether it's people with management and stuff like that, or just ex-players. And I feel grateful for that. Believe me, I feel very fortunate.
All right, so we're going to get into our true or false, fact or fiction here. So, I mean, it's because, you know, you look at movies and, okay, they're never like the book, some of them. And then this is on your life. So everything, you know, there could be a lot of differences. But the first question, did you really get into a fight in the stands with the player? Did that happen?
That did not happen. That is scripted into the movie just for fun.
All right, well, it's a great part of the movie, but it would have been okay. That's awesome. I mean, you know, like I said, we're trying to find out as much as possible. But would you have, if you were in the, let's say you were in the stands, right, and a player came over, would you have any problem back in your day beating the crap out of him?
Well, I mean, if he's coming after me specifically, you know, yeah, I have to defend myself, right? Wink, wink.
I mean, do you tell people that it does happen? Just a little pat on your own back?
You know, I think that's a little far-fetched. I mean, you don't ever really see, I mean,
No.
Maybe back in the 70s when the Bruins climbed the glass at Madison Square Garden and beat the guy with a shoe. I mean, ever since that, it's really tough to see someone climbing over that glass. So that's why I think it was a good little something to throw in the movie, because it was so far-fetched.
All right, so the next one. Did you have a version of Ross Ray, and who was it?
You know what? We did not have a version of that. Well, I didn't have one anyway in my career. And he was basically a character that was scripted into the movie. He wasn't intended to portray anybody.
Okay.
You know, I had a few guys that I had fought 6, 7, 8 times. But if there's such thing as a healthy rivalry, that's what I had. There was no hate. You know, we each had the same job to do. Everyone's trying to climb the ladder to get out of the league that you're in to maybe get up to the next league. And yeah, so there was, you know, Ross Ray, like I said, he was just a made-up character from script.
So I know you spoke about getting, you know, called up to the AHL, but did you ever get called up to protect a star player? Was that the reason?
Well, I think most times that I did get called up to, whether it was the IHL, which is now defunct, or the American League, you know, it was to help protect somebody on that team. And more times than none, it was because their current enforcer was either injured or suspended, and they just needed somebody. And, you know, like I said, I didn't belong anywhere, so to speak, but I certainly was never going to say no to an opportunity that was given to me.
Yeah, I mean, listen, anytime you can fight, right? Listen, I grew up, I love fighting, and when I could play, and we were punching cages, so we were not really getting any job done. But hockey is to me, it's something that should allow and police it. So you mentioned there's no Ross the Boss Ray, but who's the toughest guy you ever fought?
Well, I mean, for me personally, they really were all tough because, I started so late and most of those guys were at a much higher level. They had been fighting for a lot longer than I had ever been on the ice. And so, believe me, between balance and just nerves, maybe the night before, every fight for me was really important. And they were all tough. They were really tough,
Last one for the, true or false before we get to some fan questions. Did you ever block a shot off the face or score a goal off the backside?
Well, I look pretty good.
No, you did.
Off the face. I never scored a goal, although I do have an assist that I got in the East Coast League, and I swear it hit me off the back of my leg, and someone just picked up the rebound and rifled it past the goalie. So I did get credit for an assist once.
That's awesome. Thanks for doing that, too. I know you don't have any, I can't say this, can't say that. So we appreciate you openly being honest. Let's get to some fan questions. This one's from @Luca Colombano. Do you agree with the idea that the NHL is essentially getting soft when it comes to checking, fighting, and just contact in general?
Well, we did touch on that earlier. I mean, I feel like the game is changing. And I don't want to be naive. I mean, I understand why the game is changing. They're very concerned about injuries and concussions and so on. And I do get that. But let's not be fooled. The game is still fast. The players are bigger. They are very physical. And sometimes guys just take liberties with somebody else. And, again, I think if that person knew that the gloves could come off and he could get, beat up, so to speak, by his actions, there might not be so many physical players running around the way they do.
Good answer. Good answer. Next one from @AntFerrari1. How many teeth have you gotten knocked out?
One.
Really? Just one?
Just one. Yep.
All right. I guess that's less dental work you have to get done.
Yes, I was very happy that I never actually had to ever activate my dental plan.
So I guess it's fair to say you won more fights than you lost.
Well, I definitely wouldn't say that. I would say that I lost more than I won, but I think I was pretty good at absorbing punches and not really taking them square on the button.
Gotcha. Next one, @nkulkin27. Do you think that you could beat up the movie version of yourself?
Jeez, I would hope so. My God, that'd be pretty sad. But, I was really, really fortunate to be involved in the second movie. I got a little clip in the movie, and I got to square off with Doug Glatt. And, it was an ongoing joke during shooting that, I kept saying to the directors, Jay Baruchel and some of the other guys, you can't take me out with a headbutt. You got to have Doug Glatt at least, just exchange some punches, make it, I don't know. And, but that's the script they had. And I always gave Sean William Scott a lot of ribbing on the side saying, if we ever get on the ice together, I would kill you, just for fun. But he's a really, really good guy. They're all fantastic actors. I mean, every single name that's in that movie is a Class A actor in Hollywood. So to answer your question, I would hope that I could hold my own against him.
Yeah. Last question for you from Wheeler_25. Should college hockey players be allowed to duke it out rather than being ejected or even suspended?
I'm not against high school and college players having the no fight rule. I don't have a problem with that. They can wear their full face masks in their cages, and fighting should just really be on the professional level. And that's just my opinion, though.
All right. We have one last one that just snuck in here. @Evans Trevor, who would you say is the biggest tough guy in the league right now? He said, do you think it's Ryan Reeves?
I do think it's Ryan Reeves out in Las Vegas. I mean, he's certainly a badass. There's a couple of guys that are still floating around the NHL that want to do it. I just saw Matt Martin just re-signed.
Yes,
and Kevin Miller for the Bruins is back this year after being out injured. I mean, there's a couple of tough guys, but I think Ryan is probably the top dog for the last year or two anyway.
Thank you for answering all of our questions this time. I know we have a little bit of technical difficulty with Brendan, but
Yeah,
on behalf of both of us, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. It was an awesome interview, and we really hope to talk to you soon.
Well, guys, I do appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much.
No problem. Have a good one.
Okay.